So basically, I'm going to tell my story now of what happened to me a few years ago, or last year, when I was homeless on the streets of England. Now, I moved down to Cornwall for a good job with accommodation. Turned out it wasn't a very good job. The guy ripped me off. He owed me £1,000. Tried to illegally evict me from the premises because he didn't want to pay me. Now, why didn't you call the police? I did. But when people owe you money as regards to work, well, that's a civil matter. If I take £200 out of his fucking wallet because he owes me £1,000, that's a criminal matter. The law doesn't protect you in them situations. And, well, I don't have thousands of pounds to take an employer to court over £1,000. That was the start of my year in Cornwall, Newquay. Thankfully, I had a bit of money. I was able to find a room to rent, and I found a new job pretty quickly. Full-time hours. I thought, oh, how lucky. But then all my shifts got cancelled last minute. And after 2 weeks, that employer didn't want to pay me because I was working for cash, no contract. What happens in a world where inflation's rising, people are struggling, the middleman will rip off the little man. Just like the big man's ripping off the big middleman right now. Anyway, I had a bad run of luck with employers and finding somewhere to rent. 6 months in Cornwall and I broke my hand. Broke my hand in the gym. On my first go at punching. Put on some gloves, I tried out boxing, I didn't strap my hands and snap, bone broke. I had enough money to pay 8 weeks rent. It took the universal credits 14 weeks to process me any payments, and I had my cast off my hand before I got any money from the system that's here to help us and protect us when we fall upon hard times. You know, the system that's in place in England to support people who are having a hard time. I've never been on universal credits except for one time during the lockdowns when I was in a lockdown for 6 months in this country and 3 months in Portugal before that. 9 months of my life with no income. Again, fucked my life up. But I got it back on track, and this time I really needed help. After 8 weeks, I ran out of money. I had no money to pay my rent, and I had to leave the place I was staying. I was able to sleep on a few sofas, but you can't live like that. I had to declare myself homeless. Now you'd think in a country like England, where they support people who come from other lands and put them in a hotel and get them what they need, well, they do that for English people, British people. It doesn't work like that. I declared myself homeless in the middle of October one morning. I called all the people I'm supposed to. I followed all the processes. I dealt with the council. They called me back at 4:30 p.m, met me in the middle of Newquay town. I had all my belongings, my little dog with me, and they handed me a sleeping bag and a pop-up summer tent and told me, we'll call you when we find you somewhere to sleep in the middle of October. It's illegal to camp a tent wild in England, but obviously I didn't have a choice. I asked them, where should I sleep, where should I camp? They couldn't advise me. That night there was a torrential thunderstorm and my tent lasted 2 days until the roof ripped completely off it and I woke up just lying in the rain. Okay, rain coming straight through, soaking. Everything I owned pretty much got destroyed. All my clothes, shoes, paperwork, my phone got broke. Everything was ruined. I had to try to salvage what I could, throw away most of my belongings, and try to find somewhere to sleep safe outside. Not fun. I called the council every day to explain the situation, but they just kept saying, we'll call you when we find you somewhere to sleep. I passed 1 month outside from October to November, sleeping outside. On 2 occasions, I was woke up to dangerous drug addicts creeping around me. One night, my little dog informed me someone's there, and a man 3 times my size was creeping around us while I slept in a small hut on a bench in a field where they walk dogs, a public seating area. Luckily, I'm a bit of a badass, and I had to jump out on this motherfucker and tell him I'll bang you like Tyson, bruv, if you don't fuck off. Yeah? Another night, I woke up to 2 heroin addicts screaming because I was sleeping on a bench in a harbour, and they turned up and I was sleeping in their space. Okay? It's dangerous on them streets. And once you go onto them streets, you are prey to predators. Okay? Luckily, I'm a tough woman. Alright? I didn't get hurt. I didn't have to fight no one. I was able to keep me and my little dog safe. Now, you'd think that was the worst of it. After 1 month on the streets, I was called by Cornwall Council that they would house me in a supported accommodation that was funded by a charity that supports homeless people. And I thought, oh my God, how lucky. How lucky, now I can get a room, my wrist was almost better, and I can get my life back on track. Well, it turns out these so-called charities are million-dollar industries that are funneling millions of pounds in taxpayers' money yearly under the guise of supporting people back to normal living. I was housed in a supported accommodation, a dry house full of violent alcoholics, mentally unstable, suicidal people who had nothing but severe mental health issues, addictions, alcoholism. I was violently, verbally screamed at by a 50-stone man, alcoholic, very, very violent, disgusting man. The house that I was housed in was the most disgusting place I've ever lived, and the smell of that kitchen will haunt me for the rest of my days. Now, when you ask for support, you don't get it. One night, after being threatened by a 50-stone alcoholic, I called a number for support and I was told, call the police, it's not our problem. These people get paid to support you, but they don't. I was told by 3 support workers, they always come in 3s, that I wouldn't be getting a job. You won't be working while you live here. Why? Why would they not want me to get a job and get back on my feet? Because if I get a job, they don't get as much money through their business. These charities get £400 per week, per person, in housing rent, taxpayers' money, to house you in these shitholes. Okay, if I get a job, they charge me £700 to £800 a month. They get £1,600 a month over that in taxpayers' money to keep you there on benefits, not working. Okay? There was a foreign national in this house who drove a Mercedes Jeep, had just opened up a brand new business in a town over the road, and was being supported into getting PIP payments from the government. Turkish man. The support workers were well aware of that, but as long as his benefits were funneling through their business, they didn't really care. After me questioning these things with a support worker and telling her, you need to keep me safe and stop these angry alcoholic men threatening me for nothing, she decided I was a problem, made up loads of lies about me. After a dispute with her and me going to the gym, I received a text message explaining, because of your attitude, we'll be evicting you from the premises today. If you don't come back and pick up your belongings, well, we'll pack them up for you and leave them outside. They tried to evict me from this premises with 1 hour's notice by means of a text message telling me they'd pack up my shit if I didn't come and get it. Now, I hadn't done nothing wrong. I know my rights. I went back to the house and dealt with them. I explained them, I won't be leaving till you find me somewhere else to sleep. It was one of the most traumatising and stressful situations I have ever been through. And these support workers are trained to keep you trapped in their system on benefits. They're not there to help you get back to normal living. It doesn't benefit them if you get back to normal living. It benefits them if you play on your mental health, get extra PIP payments and keep money funneling through their door. Now, it took them 18 days to remove me from the house because I'd done nothing wrong. I just refused to leave. I know my rights. I won't go back to them streets, and I'm not sleeping outside a week before Christmas in the middle of winter. Now, this woman looked like the loveliest woman in the world, but she was a nasty alcoholic. Okay, these support workers, a lot of them are very, very horrible people who are just there to keep money funneling through their business and control you into being the way they want you to be. Read about history, it's been happening forever. After 18 days, they agreed to house me in a hotel. I passed 3 or 4 months in 4 different hotels where I was housed around a lot of other homeless people, drug addicts, schizophrenic alcoholics, very dangerous, violent people, men who've served a 10-year sentence for harming children, murderous heroin addicts. I was threatened on a number of occasions. I had people banging my door, they were begging off me, they wanted what I had. It was extremely stressful. Thankfully for me, I'm tough, I don't take drugs, I've been sober for years, and no matter what, I just wouldn't fall into that trap. 95% of people who become homeless end up addicts or with severe mental health issues. You think that people take drugs and then they end up on the streets. It's actually quite the opposite way around. A lot of people have a hard time, they have an injury, they have a breakdown in a relationship, they have a problem with a landlord, a family member dies and they're left homeless. They fall onto the streets and then they become drug addicts. I made friends with a lot of these people, okay? Ironically, I ended up homeless because rich men fucked me over and didn't want to pay me. I survived on them streets because a lot of people who are drug addicts actually helped me out. They gave me money for food at times. They told me where to go to get support. It's kind of scary what's happening in this world. Homelessness has risen from 6.1 per 100,000 to 8.1 per 100,000 since the lockdowns in 2020, when I told everyone this is going to have a severe impact on a lot of the world. In 2020, we passed through the biggest wealth transfer in human history. That's a fact, it's not a conspiracy. While 25% of all small businesses closed forevermore, the world's top 5 rich men made over 500 billion in 6 months. It was a wealth transfer. And what happens in a wealth transfer is the little man loses out. Homelessness is about to become a severe issue like it isn't already, but it is about to rise across Britain and the world. And if this is what's happening to good, hard-working, honest women like me in the UK, in these times, what's happening in other parts of the world? Now, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, they don't want to believe this, but don't think it can't happen to you. Please don't, because it can happen to anyone. One injury. I was lucky I had a bit of money to pay 8 weeks' rent, or I would have been homeless a lot longer. Most people these days live paycheck to paycheck. That's a fact. One injury, one family member dying, you've got no support, you end up on them streets. And like I said, 95 to 99% of people who end up homeless end up falling into drug addiction because, well, that's how they deal with it. I spoke to a number of people I met along my journey who never took drugs until they became homeless. People believe that it's the other way around. It really, really isn't. Okay? And a lot of young girls, young women like me who fall into them streets are far more vulnerable than I will ever be. They fall into drug addiction, prostitution. They are prey to a lot of predators on these streets. And like I said, I was housed and living around very, very violent and dangerous people. Not only that, then, because I was living in these situations and I was seen in the community with these dangerous people, other people in the community tarnished my name. They thought I was a drug addict. I was dangerous. I was around these people, so that really impacted my chances of ever being able to make a life or get a job in that community. And actually it was quite hard to have to live through that. I was accused of being a drug addict. I was asked a number of times if I was a drug dealer, that people thought that I was bad and dangerous because I had to live around people who were. This can happen to anyone, and I believe it happened to me so I can share my story to help others, because homelessness is about to rise worldwide, okay? It's coming, it's happening, and there's not much we can do about it. One more lockdown, one more world war, which is very potential in these times. It's not a conspiracy. That's another few million people across Britain falling into homelessness, into this trap of not being able to get out of it. Now, as soon as they housed me in a small house, a small one-bedroom flat, I was delighted. I thought, this is my chance. I'm going to get back on my feet. I worked with the job coaches in the job centre and I took a job. The best option for me at that time was to go into part-time work, 15 hours a week. They pay my rent. I stopped getting universal credits. I'm still paying a bit of tax. I'm contributing until I was ready to get back working full-time. They assured me that taking this part-time job would not affect my rent allowance. I asked these questions to 5 job coaches. Please, I don't want to be homeless again. Please tell me if I take this job, it won't affect my rent. No, this is the right option for you. After 8 weeks in the job, I received a letter and an email stating that I was 8 weeks in arrears in my rent. This was a month before Christmas. If I didn't pay them £1,000, they were going to evict me in 14 days and start court proceedings. Now, I literally had a nervous breakdown over it. I couldn't go to the job. I was in a panic attack. I didn't have money. I thought, this is it. I'm back on these streets. I'm terrified. This is Christmas. And yeah, it really affected my mental health to the point that I've never been so unwell. Okay? I quit the job. I tried to deal with all the support coaches. It took me a week to deal with the council, to deal with these people. And then after me having a nervous breakdown and spending a week of my life trying to sort it all out, poof, the rent arrears just went away. They do it on purpose to keep you trapped in a loop of homelessness and mental health issues. These support workers come in threes and they try to coach you that you've got mental health problems, you need drugs and you need PIP payments, because they get a salary when you are on benefits. It does not benefit them for you to move on with your life. And these people really don't care about your welfare. They care about their wage check and they care about keeping you in a loop of endless homelessness, depression, not being able to work. Tell me it's a conspiracy. If you live through it one day, you'll really understand that it's not. I then spent 3 months trying to figure out how to get myself out of this hole. I really took a step back. I was constantly on edge in this community because I'd been threatened by violent heroin addicts. I'd called out a few of these dangerous men for children in the community, so they wanted to hurt me and jump me. I was told by a few others that I better watch my fucking ass because they want to hurt you. It was a really, really intense and incredibly crazy time. But I learnt a lot about the system. The system that is supposedly there to support us, but it's not. The government ain't coming to save you. They want to enslave you and keep you trapped in their system. They benefit from you being on benefits. And that's a fact. And I'm living, walking proof of that. These so-called charities that support homeless people, what they are doing is funneling millions and millions of pounds in taxpayers' money under the guise of helping people. And I observed that and I spoke up about that. I spoke up about that non-stop. Through everything I was going through, I stood up for what was right. I stood up for others who weren't getting support. I pushed back against these people. And what happened then? I was scared for my fucking ass. Because these charities are run by very powerful rich people. Very powerful rich people who don't want me to tell my fucking story. But I don't care. I don't care, I'm not afraid, and I'll tell my story as it is. Because if it saves another person, if it helps someone else, well then that's the right thing to do. And if any of you out there know me, and you've known me from the past, you'll know that's the way I am. I'm not afraid to speak up against injustices in this world. I'm not afraid to speak up for what's right, and I'm not afraid to tell the truth. Even if it's labelled conspiracy and lies, I don't really care. Okay? This happened to me because I need to share my story. Because this is about to happen to 1 million more people across Britain. Homelessness is on the rise. Starvation is on the rise. Now let's talk. I was housed in a hotel on £318 a month with nowhere to cook, nowhere to wash my clothes, surrounded by violent drug addicts. There was times where I went 5 days without food. 5 days with no food. You are handed a note for a food bank that's open once a week that will literally fill you full of bags of processed crap. If we go into a state of war in this country, the food banks will not feed half of you. And that's very potential in this day and age, okay? Your granddad lived through a war, his granddad lived through a war, his granddad lived through a war. And if you look at the so-called politics of the world today and what's going on, a world war is very potential. And if you think the government's going to come and save you to keep you safe, well, you're very damn wrong, because they're not. They're coming to enslave you. They'll take your husband away to go and kill people in a different country. They'll take your children to a government-provided safe space, and that's very potential, okay? It's not a conspiracy. And people need to wake up and realise to what's coming. You do not need the government in a state of emergency. You need food, you need water, you need shelter, and if there's one thing I learned, and please hear me, you need community. You need the people around you. You need your neighbours, you need your friends, you need your family, and you need to come together as communities, okay? You need to say, no, we ain't fighting for you, we're going to band together and care for ourselves, because that's what's coming. And I tried to warn people in 2020 what was coming for this world after the lockdowns, with their cashless world and the forced vaccines and top-down control and the facial recognition cameras being rolled out and the 1984 style George Orwell world that we're being forced into, and we're halfway there. A cashless world's not a conspiracy. The fact that a lot of people got unwell and dead from the medicine that they sold you, not a conspiracy. Okay, facial recognition cameras being rolled out in most major cities across the UK right now, not a conspiracy. And I'm telling you now, if they wage a war, the government will not save you. Your community around you will. You need food, you need water, you need shelter, and you need each other. You need to come together united. You need to not fight. You need to not riot. You need to pull together as communities and make sure you've got what you need to get through it together. Okay, that's my advice. Call me crazy, label me a conspiracy theorist. I went through all that years ago. I shut down all my social media because I was tired of hearing people label me that. Well, everything I said pretty much is happening in this world today. What I lived through was truly intense. I believe it happened to me for a reason. Happened to me to strengthen me, to raise awareness for those who don't have the strength to stand up for themselves, for those who don't have the strength to pull themselves out of that hole, to raise awareness for what's actually happening. Like I said, most people become homeless because of a breakdown in a relationship, because of an injury, because of a bad landlord, because a family member passes and they don't have somewhere to live, and then they fall into drugs. It is not the other way round. You believe that people become drug addicts, they land on them streets, they don't want to get help, they don't want to get support, and the support's there, the system's there to help them. No, it's not. The system's there to keep them trapped. Cornwall Council tried to house me with another charity called Harbour Housing. It's a government-approved crack den, okay? It is a 15-bedroom house full of violent heroin addicts who sign a waiver to state that they can smoke crack and take heroin in their rooms. Ironically, if they smoke marijuana, they can get a warning. Make that make sense. They're allowed to take hardcore drugs like heroin and crack cocaine in their rooms, but if they smoke marijuana, they'll get a warning for it. Please make it make sense. The government benefits from the drug addicts on our streets. Not to mention, these drug addicts get supported into PIP payments. While I needed help to just get some extra healthy food that I couldn't get, these drug addicts get PIP payments and around £800 to £900 a month to smash on drugs. If you want extra support to go to the gym and get some vitamins and some vegetables, well, it won't be happening. It won't be happening. The food banks that I used at times saved my fucking life, okay? And the people who work in these places are incredible. I met some amazing people along my tough journey. I really, really did. And I'm grateful to everyone out there who supported me, who helped me, the ladies in the food banks who are absolutely incredible. But I can tell you now, if this country goes into a state of war, they ain't ready to help half of you. Okay? If this country goes into a state of war, a state of lockdown, a state of emergency, and the supermarkets ain't open and you're relying on a food bank to feed you and your family, it ain't gonna happen on a mass scale across this country. Like I said, I believe this happened to me so I can share my story, because if I can get a few of you to hear me and maybe get prepared for what might come in the future, well, I might save your ass. And the main thing you need to take from this is the system is not there to protect and save you, it's there to keep you trapped. The government ain't coming to save you in a state of emergency, okay? What they're going to do is divide you, split your families up, try and break down communities. Remember 2020? Yeah, remember what they did. They split us up. They didn't want us talking to each other. They didn't want us touching each other. They didn't want us being communities. They wanted us separated, segregated, and in our homes alone. And that's what will happen again. And if there's a state of war, they'll come and draft your husband, take your older sons, and they'll send them to a different country. That's a fact. Read history. And it will happen again one day. I've thought long and hard about sharing this story because there's a lot of powerful rich people who run these charities who don't want me to. But I don't care. I don't care. Because it's my duty to share this story. It's my responsibility to tell people what's coming for this world. And it's coming on a mass scale. And if this is happening in a country like the UK, what's happening in the rest of the world? What's happening around the world now, in countries like India and Africa and Asia, you know, if homelessness has risen to that from 6.1 per 100,000 to 8.1 per 100,000 in the UK since 2020, and that's only on the rise. We ain't going down, you know, they ain't supporting people off these streets, they're keeping them trapped there. What's happening in the rest of the world? Starvation, 9 million people, probably 10 million now, dying every year because they ain't got food. That's coming on a mass scale, okay? And if you're not seeing the prices rising, the inflation, the extra taxes, if you're out there like, well, I'll be fine, you know, I've got a bit of money, I'll be okay. Well, one day you might not be. 5 years from now, you might be the one in my position. 2 years from now, you might be the one in that position where you need that help and it ain't there. The system is designed to keep you trapped. The system is designed to keep you trapped in it, and I'm living, walking proof of that. I'm going to share my story a bit more, and I'm going to try to raise awareness for this, because it needs to happen, and people need to open their eyes. And if you're out there in your ignorance thinking these homeless people are just dirty drug addicts and they don't want help and they don't want support, well, most of them do. Most of them do want help and they do want support, but the so-called support workers and charities only benefit off them being the way they are. And that's a fact. Do your research. Google it. Go and look into it. Go and speak to these people on the streets. Go and speak to people like me who've been through it. Now, thankfully, I left where I was. I've found a good job. I've got a better place to live. But we'll see how that goes. I'm making money now. I'm back working full time. I do not want to live like that. I do not want to be on government benefits. I'm a woman who's worked hard all my life. I've worked hard all my life. I've travelled this world. I've always been a hard worker. I've never had a problem not getting a job. But even this year, trying to find employment and a good job was difficult for me for the first time in my life. And if that's happening to me, that's happening to millions more across this land. If you've watched this, thank you. Please share my story. I'm currently writing a book about it. And please hear me when I say, the government ain't coming to save you, okay? You need to talk to your communities about what's going on in this world and what you'll need if there is a state of emergency again. Because it will be your neighbour that saves your life. And if you've got loads of water and your neighbour's got loads of food, but you won't talk to each other and share, well, you'll both die, okay? If one of you's got wood and one of you's got a match, but you won't talk to each other and share, you'll freeze to death, okay? We need to come together as communities and talk to each other about these issues. And we need to do that on a mass scale, and we need to do it collectively, and we need to do it pretty quick. If you're prepared for what's coming, well, you'll be fine. If you're not, well, the government ain't coming to save you. They're really not. I don't really know what else to say right now, but I'll share more of my story one day soon. I hope if you're watching this, it finds you safe and warm and well with a hot meal and people who love you around you. Okay, because in 2020, I lost a lot of people I love over being a crazy conspiracy lady. You know, ironically, everything I said is quite happening in this world today. Argue with me, but come with proof before you do, please. Okay? Because the inflation's only going to keep rising. Okay? The tax is only going to keep rising. Homelessness only going to keep rising. Starvation only going to keep rising in this world until we band together as communities and start supporting each other and not relying on this system. We don't need to fight the government. We need to unite as communities. Okay? Save your son, save your daughter, grow some food, source some water. Okay? Because money will not save you in the future. Okay? This world shuts down and there's not a supermarket open, you're not going to eat a £10 note. Okay? You need food. You need water. You need shelter. And like I said, more importantly, you need community and you need the people around you. You need your neighbours. You need the people that you love. You need to pull together. We need to not fight with these people in these governments. We need to stop rioting. I live in a country where people will go and fight with police and smash up hotels because immigrants were housed in them, but they'll walk past good, hard-working women like me who are left on the streets for months in winter. I'm a British woman who was left on the streets for months during winter in a country where immigrants come straight here and get put straight into a hotel. Now, I know there's a lot more behind this whole immigration issue, and it's not young women and children getting help, and yeah, I see that. But fighting isn't going to help, okay? Uniting as communities and starting to band together for what we'll need in a state of emergency is the only way that we will get through it. And if you hear anything from my story, please hear that. I hope you're safe, I hope you're well, and I hope you're happy and healthy in these crazy times on planet Earth. Thank you.